So we're going to actually kind of be, I mean, strictly speaking, we're basically reviewing what we learned with the puzzle cube. There's a few extra little caveats I'm going to show you. First off, we need to actually make the file. So you're going to click on create, and you're going to create a document in the same folder that your car parts are. And you can call it, you know, Automoblox assembly or something. I don't really care what you call it per se, but it is the assembly. And I will remind you, as some of you may recall, by default, when you make a generic document, it has a part studio and an assembly already there. You can actually right-click on the part studio and you can delete it. We only need the assembly tab. If for whatever reason you needed to add assemblies, right? I mean, this is plus sign. You can add whatever kind of tab you want. Okay, you can create drawing files. Okay, whatever you need to do. We just need the assembly though. Now I want to show you something so that you're aware of this. When we did this with the puzzle cube, I encouraged you to do all of this in one file, and each part was its own tab in that file. And the reason why we did that was because it just made sense. It was more efficient. Yeah. The reason why we didn't do it with the car, I mean, you could have done it with the car, but the reason why I told people not to do this car is I found, for better or worse, I found in the past that sometimes like files would get corrupted or deleted or not saved properly. They're cloud-based, but I think it was people being on their Chromebooks or whatever. Like, the Chromebooks suck. And then also people with like multiple people in the same account. And what would happen is like if you started working on like a part and that file had multiple parts and that file didn't get saved correctly, then like multiple parts could get corrupted and not saved correctly, as opposed to if they're separate files, just the one you were working on when it started having problems. So it's not the most efficient way to do it, but also you should get used to inserting parts that are from different files. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that right now. We're in assembly. We're going to click on insert. And you can see these tabs. It says current document and other documents. What do you think we're going to click on?
Other document.
And it starts by allowing you to sort of kind of search in your own thing. So like you can use this arrow to like go back or up a level, and then you can like scroll down and pick other things. Okay. You need to understand one little complication here. It is like defaulting to what this was last done. And remember, multiple people are logged into the same account. So really make sure that you're actually in your folder. Like I was in Blake's folder. I never went there. The last person who did an assembly was probably Blake. And that's why I was defaulting to it. Or the last person who opened something on this account was Blake. And that's why I was defaulting to that folder. Okay. So make sure that you're actually in your folder. Use this arrow to go back. And then go to your folder and your Automoblox Car stuff. And then you can place things. I'm going to place my stuff. So watch very carefully. I'm going to place a tire. And you might, I don't know if you always do. I think you do. You might get this. Are we getting this kind of message?
Yeah.
Let's talk about why this is. That tire is a separate file. What happens if changes get made to that tire after I've already put it in this assembly?
It doesn't change.
It's a question, right? It kind of has it's an important question, right? Well, this is a way that they track that stuff and keep those things separate. So I'm going to create a version in tire. I can leave it version 1. And I'm going to place it here. And I'm going to click the green check mark. I have a tire. Now the question stands, what happens if I make changes to that tire? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go actually to my tire. And I'm actually going to change it. And I'm going to change it in a very superficial way. I'm going to just make it a different color. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to go open my tire. I have it in a different tab, a different like Chrome tab. All right. So I'm going to click on my tire. Here's my assembly. Here's the tire file. I'm going to right click right here. I'm going to right click on part 1 and I'm going to choose edit appearance. I'm going to make my tire green. I'm even going to like refresh the page just to prove my point. Going to refresh the page. I'm going to close out of the tire file. Does it seem like it updated here in my assembly?
No.
That was what the whole version thing is. If you create a version, it's like a snapshot of that file at that time. It does not, in general, update on its own. Now there is this update linked document. But I don't know that this really works. You can see it's got this whole version graph. It shows you all the different versions. I'm going to be honest, this is kind of complicated and it's not stuff that really is relevant if you're always working alone. But in the real world, you would work on code or CAD projects with other people. And so really good software, the software that's used in industry, has ways of snapshotting things. They call them versions or commits, and there's like all this branches you can follow to see the version history of pieces of software or CAD parts. And this is kind of what that all is about. You don't have to actually understand how it all works. You just need to appreciate that when you do this assembly, because it's in a separate file, if you make changes to your parts, it's not going to update automatically. So what you should do first is you should make sure that you like your parts the way they are. So if I want to use the tire and I want it to be colored and I want to put it on the wheel and I want the wheel to be colored, probably should color them in the part files first. So I've colored my wheel and my tire. Are we good so far? Yes, yeah.
Sir.
All right. So now that I've colored them, I'm going to go to my passenger section. I'm just picking some of the default colors. I'm not saying they're good. I'm just kind of just going with them. I'm not going to color all of mine. I'm really just trying to show how to do constraints to get things made. So I'm just going to color these 4 parts and go from there. Now I can go back to my Automoblox assembly and I can actually place these things. If you already put something in and you didn't color beforehand, I would delete it. I would delete it and do it all again. Okay? Notice now for my tire, it says 1 change since the last version. So I can create a version again, and this would be version 2. How many tires does the car have? How many tires does the car have? 4. So you can place it multiple times. Yeah.
Can I take a quick run to the office?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I've placed enough, in my opinion, to really get you started. I'm going to give you a little bit more time, and then I'm going to move on. My goal is to show you again just the basics here.
Why a windshield doesn't look like?
Say that again?
My windshield's not like wooden. It's just like a purple square. When I
I don't know what you meant. You might have to bring your Chromebook here and look at it. It might be sucking internet with a Chromebook. It might not be anything you did wrong. Or it might be, and I don't know. So let's take a look. Let's see. If it's sucking internet, I don't know what the solution's going to be.
So when I clicked on it,
And I can see a preview. It looks like actual trash, but the preview looks very legit. Like that preview looks very like you did it. That's a very. Let me go look at your actual part.
no, that's not it.
And open it. I haven't seen this issue, so I'm wondering if this is an internet thing. I'm not sure. Let's see what shows up here. I mean, this looks legit.
Yeah.
You would have literally had to have made this and then went back and made it look dumb.
Yeah.
For the preview to look so nice and then not have it look just a cube, which would be very odd. This is clearly functional. It's clearly good and complete. Why is this a cube? Why is this a sucky cube then? I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, they're off.
But I don't know why. I don't know why it was. My only guess is sucking internet.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
I just hadn't loaded. I wish I had a better explanation for you. Hopefully it doesn't keep happening. But if it does, maybe what you want to do is just go open the original file.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
All right. About another 30 seconds, another minute or so, and then I'm going to show you guys how to do this. You don't necessarily have to have everything loaded in because you can load them on your own at your leisure, but it does help if you actually have things to play with or you can't follow along while I'm doing it. All right, boys and girls, time. So let's start off with something that's meant to be really easy and simple in CAD software. We're going to put tires on wheels. So they've tried to make some tasks really straightforward. And a common task is you fit things that are circular around each other, or you put things in holes. Those are pretty normal, common tasks. And so actually, their very first couple, I guess you call them mates. They have a fastened mate, okay? So if you click on this, and I won't claim to be an expert on the fastened mate, but if you just click on the fastened mate, or you actually hover over it, and it'll give you the tooltip. You maybe have to click on it. I don't know why it's not. There we go. It says it removes all degrees of freedom. The fastened mate is like a one and done thing. It's meant to be like the mate of all mates. You use this and you don't have to use anything else. So that's okay with a tire and a wheel because the tire should fit on the wheel and not move at all relative to the wheel. So mate connectors, how would we do this? Well, we're going to attach the tire to the wheel here. So what you could do is, and this is with a fastened mate, mind you, I'm going to zoom in and I'm thinking if I grab this edge here and I click on it and then I go and I zoom in, that edge is going to touch this edge. Okay. And I'm done. Easy. And that's it. Those suckers now are locked together. That was very straightforward and easy. When you have situations where a fastened mate will work, I strongly suggest you use it because it's a single mate and it doesn't require like a lot of tedious bookkeeping. What do I mean by tedious bookkeeping? Imagine that you mess up and you want to go edit a mate later. There could be a million mates over here. Are you going to know which mate to use or which mate is which? Not unless you rename them. So like I can rename this wheel 1. But I mean, if I had 3 or 4 mates to join 2 parts, like I probably wouldn't have 4, but if I had 2 or 3, how do I name them, right? Like that's going to get crazy. So I strongly encourage you to try to use the fastened mates. I think the fastened mates work really well with the tires going on the wheels. Again, let's try something different. I'm going to click on the inside surface of this wheel. So I'm not clicking on this edge anymore. I'm going to click on the inside surface. And then I'm going to click on this surface right here, this rim. Didn't quite work out perfectly. Okay? I would have to do a little bit more work to get that lined up. So what you select matters. In my experience, I find using edges is better than surfaces. So I'm going to use this edge here. Again, line up with this edge, the rim. Easy, problem solved. Don't know why this is being like this. Oh, that's because this is the part. So I'm going to go do the other 2 now. And that's that. I have my tires on my wheels. That's pretty painless. I'd strongly encourage you, though, to not get too far ahead of yourself and label these real quick. So that if you do make a mistake, which you probably won't make them here, or if you do, you'll realize it immediately and you can quickly fix it. But when we start getting to the other stuffs, it's not going to always be as easy. It's not always going to be a simple, oh, I'll just use a fasten. So I would rename these so you can go through this stuff later and figure out which one was which. Questions?
Yeah.
What we're going to do now, I'm going to put the windshield into the into this like passenger section. Now, if it's a snug hole like this, a fastened mate might work. So, like for example, I might be able to like grab this surface here, maybe, and then try and place it in the bottom of this. But it doesn't really work perfect. When you don't have perfect circles lining up with each other, it doesn't always really work out very well. So the fasten mate probably isn't going to be the best way to do that. We're going to have to use the good old-fashioned regular planar mate. And this is what we used when we did this with the puzzle cube. Now, how many dimensions do we live in?
3.
Okay, we live in 3 spatial dimensions. When you do a planar mate, that constrains 1 dimension. So how many planar mates are you going to have to do for each joining of parts? How many planar mates will it take to join 2 parts completely?
3.
3. Each mate reduces or constrains 1 dimension, and we live in 3 spatial dimensions, so it's going to take 3. We have to reduce its movement or constrain its movement in all 3 directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to planar mate right here. So one that's got like the crosshair arrow looking thingy. All right. I'm going to click on that. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this edge right here. So this is the bottom. You can see in gold or yellow what I selected. I'm going to put the bottom of that onto the top of the passenger section. Now I want you to use some logic. Why would it be a bad idea to use the very bottom and constrain it to the very bottom of the hole? Don't overthink this. Why would this part that I'm tracing out with my finger right here, why would it be a bad idea to use this? What do you guys think?
Let me see again.
I just constrained this edge to the top of the wooden section. Why would it be a bad idea to use this bottom edge and constrain to the bottom of that hole? What do you think?
Because the calipers.
It has nothing to do with the calipers. Does this bottom part go all the way into the hole? Does it go and touch the bottom? Do you even know?
No. Well,
Look at the car. Does this plastic touch the bottom of the wooden section? You tell me. What do you guys think?
no.
It does not. It should be very obvious it does not. Because what's at the bottom of the wooden section?
The pieces for people.
It's the plate for the people, right? This does not go all the way to the bottom of the wood. So make sure you're choosing the correct things to constrain. So what have I constrained here? Well, I have made it so that the windshield cannot move up or down. And if I look at the view cube, that means I've constrained its motion in the z-axis. Make sense? Yes or yeah? So I am going to actually right-click and rename this windshield hyphen wood Z. Windshield hyphen wood hyphen Z. This constrains the windshield to the wood in the Z direction. I would have named it windshield hyphen passenger section, but it's a little bit big, and so I just went with wood. I think that's good enough. How many more constraints do I got to do? How many more?
Probably. It depends.
I did one. How many more? I got to do 2 more for a total of 3, right? I did the Z. So now I'm going to do the X and the Y. So what I could do is I could go and constrain planar mate. Okay. I could do planar mate, and I could constrain it to touch this side in here, that side right there, which is the side of the part that goes in, right there, with that wooden side inside there. And that'll turn it. Now that's not what I want, so what do I do to fix this? That's flush and I want it to be mated. How do I change that? It's like this, and I want it to be like this. It's like this, and we'll be like this. I can just, what do you click to change it, to flip it? What do you click to flip anything in Onshape?
The arrow.
Yeah, I get the black arrow, right? Okay. And that prevents it from moving in the X direction. Look at my view cube here. There's the X direction. Doesn't move in the X direction. They move together. I'm only able to slide in the Y direction. So I can go and I can rename that. Rename it windshield wood X. I want to do the last one. This will be the Y direction. So I'm going to click on the back of this or the front. Either would work. Doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll do the front. So the front of that inside insert, and I click at the front of the hole. And there it is. That's good. And I can call that windshield wood. That would be the Y. And everything you do is going to be very similar to that. Okay? Everything you're going to do is be very similar to that. Now, there's a bunch of other things that you can do, okay, that are more, what you might consider more complicated. And I'm going to let you all just kind of cook on that. Because realistically, I think to put this car together, you just need the 2 mates I showed you. But I mean, if you want to try and play around with the other ones, you can. You can make it so things actually do move, but move in specific ways. I want you to think about this car. What is something on this car that would actually be allowed to move?
The wheels.
They're allowed to spin, right? So they're constrained, but they're only constrained in a specific way. They're still allowed to spin, right? And there are ways to do that with those different constraints. So if you want to go through, you can. But for right now, I think I've shown you enough to successfully do your assembly. So with that, I'm going to stop the stream.